It's a fairly bright day in April, and we're setting off from where?
Ilkley.
Ilkley, are you sure about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're heading to, where do you think?
Well, probably Bingley, but first of all we're going to the pub, Dick Hudsons.
Yeah.
Over Ilkley Moor.
So the idea is to head out of Ilkley, up over Ilkley Moor,
Yeah.
and then it's sort of Bingley Moor, and we
yes.
descend down to this, hopefully find somewhere for a pub lunch.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get the train from Bingley up to Skipton.
Absolutely.
I think that's the plan.
That's the
okay,
plan.
Let's give it a go. Heading out of Ilkley then, past the gill, along the gill. First ascent. I quite like Ilkley. It's I said to my brother last night, it's a bit like a miniature version of Harrogate, really. It's a Victorian spa town. It's a lot smaller than Harrogate, but one of these places that grew up as a, well, nothing changes much, does it? It grew up as a wellness and health retreat or resort up below Ilkley Moor. So it's about, well, it's half an hour on the train out of Leeds, about 20 miles, I should think, something like that. Yeah, very popular place to live. That's a good place to get to on the train, Ilkley, from Leeds, so you don't need to worry about bringing your car up here. And then you've got access through Wharfedale. Ilkley is on the River Wharfe. You've got access through Wharfedale to parts of the Yorkshire Dales. But this will give the legs a bit of a workout, I think, on a day like today. We've not done any hard walking for a while, or walking with steep sections anyway. Well, I haven't. Plenty of walking on the flat, that's quite straightforward. Very bright and sunny at the moment, and we're just getting to the point where you've got a choice of routes. Just got to the edge of Ilkley, and we were looking at the plaque for the building, this building on the left, this beautiful big stone building, and the plaque explains, well, several things. It was accommodation, I suppose, a hotel at one stage, and Charles Darwin stayed there just when he was awaiting publication of On the Origin of Species. He spent some time here, and then later on it became a maternity hospital or maternity home, and there's another plaque dedicated to one of the first black midwives to work in the NHS. I think it's back to being, well, it's gone back to being some residential accommodation now, sort of flats and things. But it's a lovely big old building, big stone building. So we think the path on the left goes down to the Cow and Calf Rock.
Yeah, or up to the Cow and Calf.
Or up to the Cow and Calf Rock, which is the landmark that really stands above Ben Riddings. That's about 2 or 3 miles back along the wharf. But we're going up this big steep ascent straight up onto Ilkley Moor. So this is a junction. It's just off Crossbeck Road in Ilkley, and we're heading up towards, what's the building called, the White Wells Cafe on the top?
Yeah, I think so. I think it says there White Wells Spa Cottage.
And White Wells Spa Cottage, yeah.
Official name.
Yeah, which I think has been there a long time. Well, there's the boating lake. And there we go, make our way up here. So we've made it up to the White Wells building, which was, according to the plaque here, was a former bathhouse built by Squire Middleton for the people of Ilkley in the 18th century. And yeah, it's a good walk up here. So this is the White Wells and the former bathhouse. And yeah, you'd have a decent workout walking up to the top here. And now we're looking back at the Wharfe Valley, and Ilkley itself is sort of you can see now how it's wedged in between the moors and the higher land around the wharf. So it's strung out along the valley from, which way? West to east along here. So that's looking round to the east. And no idea what this very grand building is here in the sort of middle ground. Pamela thinks it's perhaps a hostel now, maybe a youth hostel or a private hostel. Very, very big grand building. We can just, everything's foreshortened now, so the church is in the middle of Ilkley, are almost together in the middle. And we can almost see the wharf. There's a suspension bridge, a yellow suspension bridge over the wharf, footbridge, pedestrian bridge, just round there, where it makes a slight turn and then it makes its way to Burley and Wharfedale and then down towards Leeds. You taking the air?
Yes.
You don't fancy going into the bathhouse?
No. Found
Not-
the path going up.
Excellent. Is that the right way we're going then?
Up, yes.
Okay,
Up.
lead on then.
We
lead-
go this way.
Lead on, yeah. Yeah, there's a very helpful sign here telling us which way is north and which way is south. So that's quite useful. That's the entrance to the bathhouse, but there's obviously a mounting block here, look. Get onto your vehicles. If you hadn't walked up, but you come in your carriage, if you're lucky enough to have a carriage, you'd use that to get into the carriage or up onto your horse. Yeah, it's very good views. It's a bit blowy up here. It's a bit of a nip, a little bit of a cold nip in the air.
The guys are opening the toilets if you want to know.
They're opening the toilets. So there are some toilets up here if you get this far and you're desperate. They're being opened for the season. Yeah. So this says public footpath, Millennium Way. And you think we got this track on the left, footpath on the left. Yeah. Okie dokie. Yeah, Millennium Way. There's another arrow, waymarked arrow as well, isn't there? Millennium. Oh, it just says Millennium Way. Yeah.
If you come round this way, the Highdale Way
Is it signed as well?
is signed going down, but not coming up for it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's a bit confusing. So yeah, the Dales Highway comes down here. Yeah. Okay. Good.
What we're following.
We're following the Dales Highway,
Yeah.
which yours feels should be called the High Dales Way. Yeah. As opposed to the Dales Way. If you follow the Dales Way, that tends to stay a little lower down in the valleys. But the Dales Highway takes the view that if there's any kind of fell or peak to go over, you go over it. Which is why it's the higher way through the Dales. Yeah. So I think I was trying to work out the next settlement over from Ilkley. Is that Addingham then? Probably Addingham?
Well, that was what I was wondering.
Yeah. You can see the path that runs so roughly west that you can follow along and then drop down to Addingham and then over and into Skipton. That's probably Addingham.
You see that shadow on the distance over there?
Yeah.
I think that's Simon's Seat.
Yeah. Right on the
Right
on the horizon. Yeah, Simon's Seat. So the wharf, we think the wharf takes a sort of turn. Well, it's coming down, isn't it? It's coming down this way, but it comes around the corner and then through, obviously through the gap.
And the settlements a wee bit along the wharf.
Yeah.
Then if you're walking to Skipton, it's one of these ridges along, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to go up and over.
Yeah.
You can see some wind turbines on the top there. Yeah. And you just see the swimming pool, the outdoor swimming pool at Ilkley, the blue swimming pool next to the rugby pitch and some cricket grounds down there, the other side of the wharf.
Yeah.
But you can't really see the river, and the railway runs through there, but you can't actually see the railway. And the railway stops at Ilkley. It's a terminus point. It did used to run on to Addingham and Skipton, but in 1965, well, the plan was to close. We were reading, and the plan was to close all of the line out of Leeds and Bradford up to Ilkley. But there was a big campaign at least to keep the line open to Ilkley, which makes, you know, these days makes really good sense, because I think a lot of people like to live in the Wharfe Valley, and then they'll commute into Leeds or Bradford for work. It's only half an hour, so to close that line would have been completely daft for these settlements, but at least a bit of common sense prevailed at the time, at least with some of the line. You get the bus up to Skipton and the main road carries on to Skipton, but the railway's gone.
Well, I think apparently this place is called Poets' Corner, and you're meant to write a stanza and put it in that little hole up there.
Little ginnel,
so that other people can read your poetry.
Okay. So are you intending to write a few stanzas, a few verses?
I don't think so.
No.
Today it's really nice that it's a wee bit out of the wind, because the wind's quite cold, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a wind chill.
There's no shelter up here, it's just moor. There's no trees or anything, so it's quite nice to know a spot where at least we can sit down and a cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's not a bad place for a cup of coffee. So we're just looking out across the moor, and what Pamela said is the idea is you get to this Poets' Corner, and there's one or two people have written a few verses there. They're all washed away in the wind and the rain, I think. That's the idea, is you write if you're inspired, you write something and you leave it here. Getting towards the edge of Ilkley Moor, we're just going up to the highest point on the moor. Not sure what the spot height is up here, but we'll have to check that later. I'll check it on the map. The boundary stone marks, well, I think this marks the high point, and also it sort of starts to point out where Ilkley Moor ends and Burley Moor, and I think Bingley Moor begin. So yeah, do you know what the height is up here? We're not sure, are we?
At the moment we're 384 metres up.
384 metres, about 1,000 feet-ish. Very windy up on the top of the moor, but these are the known as the 12 Apostles, and we think they're just a Victorian affectation, I suppose, that somebody in their wisdom decided to set up here, so it's not a genuine Bronze Age or Neolithic stone circle, but it's the Victorians' idea of enhancing the natural landscape. So they put up here, somebody put up here the 12 Apostles. Well, we made it to Dick Hudsons, just about 2 or 3 miles outside of Bingley. We come down off the moors, and again, it's a fine looking building. It says it was at one stage the Fleece Inn, and then renamed the Dick Hudson, who was a landlord in the past. So we're just going to head in there now, but I'll swing round, and again you've got the view down, having come over Ilkley Moor, Burley Moor, now Bingley Moor. You've got the view down into the next sort of sweep of valley that also heads out towards Skipton. Yeah, it's a lovely spot. So it'd be fantastic today if the wind just died down just a little tiny bit, just a little bit. It'd be lovely. Anyway, this is Dick Hudsons. It says muddy boots and paws welcome. Our boots aren't too muddy anyway, they're a bit dusty as much as anything. Yeah, so the Fleet Inn, rebuilt 1889, and Dick Hudson was the landlord. go. See what they've got. We walked about a mile or so from the pub, a bit of road walking, and then into the village of Eldwick, and now we're into the outskirts of Bingley, one of the many towns of West Yorkshire, and we're just cutting off a little bit of the road walking by coming through the Prince of Wales Park. So it's only about a mile or so to the railway station now, and then we're going to get a train up to Skipton and spend the night there before doing a walk tomorrow. Yeah, just reading a little bit about this park in Bingley. So originally going to be called the People's Park because the start of work on the park coincided with the wedding day of the then Prince of Wales, a chap who became Edward VII. They decided, or a lot of people were encouraged to rename it as the Prince of Wales Park. So it's actually an old quarry that was decided it was not suitable for allotment use, and therefore it was going to be awarded for the recreational use of Bingley's labouring poor. That's a good expression, isn't it? The labouring poor. So it was just designed for people to come and get out of their terraced houses and spend a bit of time in the open air. So it's a very old park if it dates back to the 1860s and still thriving today.